Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome at Private Equity for Women online mentoring webinar and cocktail with executive and career coach Kenza Mekouar. My name is Michaela Vyskupičová and I work as Global Events and Strategy Manager at LPEA, Luxembourg Private Equity and Venture Capital Association. And also I am a coordinator of Private Equity for Women group. Nice to meet you via Zoom. This COVID-19 situation isn't easy, but we believe that now is the time to care of our community more than ever before. You are familiar with all the initiatives which we have launched since March. 10 years, 10 minutes, LPEA webinars, charity concert. If you don't know them, you can follow us via LinkedIn or YouTube. Before we start our mentoring workshop, let us shortly introduce you Private Equity for Women group and our moderators, Manon Aubry and Nicolas Gauzes.
Thank you for the introduction, Michaela. Perhaps we should present a little bit our group PE4W. Let me show you the slide if you want me to. So we have created a Private Equity for Women more than 1 year ago already. We have created it with Raja, Nicolas Gauzes, and Michaela, who is coordinating the group inside the LPA. We are already more than 100 members, and we have organized several events. And the last one was in March for the International Women's Day. Also important information, we have signed the pledge to say no woman, no panel. And we try to stick to it. How it started. Oh, sorry. How it started. So I have attended my first Inside conference 2 years ago. And Raja was president of the ELPA. This conference is held on an annual basis. At the end of her speech, she said, I would be glad to coach young, talented women. And I said, why? Why not? So a few months later, I was in a restaurant together with friends, and she was alone waiting for someone. And I was thinking, I have to talk to her. So I jumped from my chair and I talked to her. I present myself and I said, do you remember that you wanted to coach young women? And she said, yes, of course. So we went for a drink and she asked me about my career path, my opinions about Luxembourg, and about the finance industry in general. And I said, and I still believe it, I'm comfortable here. I love the country and I love my job, but I'm very badly surprised by the lack of women representation in the industry. I was very surprised by the audience in the room. As you may see, it is a room full of men, black and blue suits, and I'm here. So this is how we wanted to create a group to empower women, to give them the opportunities to be confident in their careers, to continue to succeed in their careers, and to organize such panel discussions, coaching sessions, workshops, networking events, to give them the opportunity to succeed in their careers. And we have recently launched our mentoring program, which is really, really helpful. So perhaps, Nicolas, do you want also to present yourself?
Yes, thank you, Manon. So I'm Nicolas Gauzes. I'm a corporate partner at Linklaters. I'm heading the corporate practice. And why am I co-chairing the PE4W committee? Actually, Raja gave me a call because she thought that for promoting women in the industry, you also need men on board. And she wanted to have men that were ready to promote diversity. She thought that I might be fitted for the job because I'm actually working part-time, which is quite rare as a partner in a major law firm. I'm not working on Wednesdays. I took time off to take care of my children, and I'm currently coaching them playing rugby every Wednesdays. Now back to you, for the show.
Thank you. Michaela, do you want us to introduce Kenza? You are in mute, Michaela.
I would like to invite Raja. She is the CEO at LPEA, and the invitation is because she received an award as most inspirational woman in finance. Hi, Raja.
Hey, Mika, Manon, Nicolas, and of course, Kenza, our guest coach. So I have the very, how can I say, emotional task of introducing you to our guest today, who is just my sister. And this is why I feel that it's important I do it. It was our initiative as a group to invite her as an expert coach. And the only comment I want to make on that, because she will tell you more about herself, and Mika will also do so, because I remember back when she was 20 years old and a student, I had friends from all over the world calling her for advice already. So I would say that executive coaching, in her case, is more of a vocation than a job. And this is why I'm sure you'll have a great time today. I just want to add two little points before I disappear, is that you are left in incredibly capable hands of this very varied team. So we have ladies and a gentleman. And I have to say, I was a little bit, how can I say, surprised when I looked at the attendee list a bit earlier, because among the dozens of people who registered and who I hope will join the conversation, we have 4 men. So I want to congratulate these men. I want to ask them to come forward and ask questions and participate. But I also ask you guys to think that usually we are the ones getting in the room when it's full of men, and we, the few ladies, have to put ourselves forward. And therefore, my dream is that one day we don't need this PE for women bullshit. We should all be 50-50, one way or another. And hopefully the work that Mika is doing with Manon and Nicolas will help us get to that result. So the dream is eventually we get rid of this group. And remember to toast with us at the end. So have fun, and all the best, and welcome.
Thank you very much. Kenza, I would like to leave now the screen, the microphone to you.
Thank you, Michaela. Thank you, Raja, for introduction. I think, Michaela, I don't know if you were going to say a little bit more about me, or you want me to just move on to the subject.
So I would like to say, if someone from our participants don't know, that Kenza founded her own executive coaching company, Career 3.0, in London in 2013 after a professional career in consulting, banking, and executive resourcing. Kenza started her training in executive coaching, for example, at the University of Cambridge. It's a pleasure for us to have you here, Kenza, and we would like to drop that now to the topic.
Thank you very much. So thank you everyone for joining us in this webinar. Thank you LPEA, and thank you Raja for organizing this event. This is one of my favorite topics, so I'm really happy to be here. I think it's very relevant that we talk about mentoring at this moment, because I'm facing the struggle every day with the kids at homeschooling, with all the struggles between families that we cannot see and friends that we don't see, whether to use my coaching or mentoring skills, because I think it's everyone at some point in their life has been a mentor or a mentee, whether you do it as a parent or as a child or as a sibling, with friends or with the rest of family. Mentoring has always been part of our lives. And actually even the term mentor appeared in, it comes from Greek mythology, and it appeared, I think first in Homer's book, The Odyssey. And Mentor was an old friend of Odysseus. When he left to war, Odysseus entrusted Mentor with the care of his son. And he was entrusted to give him guidance and help him through life while Odysseus was in war. So that, you know, so everyone has been a mentor at some point, whether you do it on purpose and consciously. It's part of our lives. So I think it's a very interesting subject, and I'm sure, like everyone else right now, confined in their home, whether you're playing teachers with your kids or whether you're supporting your other half with their work, it's a skill that everybody needs, and I like to call it skill because I think it's just a life skill more than actually also a job.
Thank you very much. I would like to ask you the question because you are coach, and I would like to ask if it's a so big difference between mentoring and coaching, or is it similar, or where are the differences? Is there some different? Are there differences?
Yes, and it's a very common questions that I get a lot of times. People can get a little bit confused and are worried whether is this coaching, is this mentoring, and I think coaching and mentoring have a lot of similarities. So I'll start with the differences because there's less differences than similarities. Coaching is a more a short-term relationship, where you engage into a much more formal contract. Actually, it starts with a contract. It starts with a coachee looking for support, looking for support from someone who's supposed to be qualified. It's also a more directive, it's less directive than mentoring. It's supposed to be less directive. You're not supposed to have industry expertise about the subject. However, and I think we'll touch a little bit later on that subject, a coach is not required to have expert knowledge about a particular industry of the coachee. But I know that a lot of coachees are much more comfortable when a coach is familiar with a certain industry. And I think that's why a lot of my clients come to me, because they know that I've worked in finance, because most of my clients work in finance. But I would also say that I've had clients in industries I've never worked in, and the relationship has still been successful. In mentoring, however, the mentor has to have an industry expertise. It is more a relationship of transfer of skills, of knowledge. It's a partnership. And the mentor is supposed to kind of transfer his perspective and vision, share his network, and share his experience. So in that sense, it's quite different. I think the process as well in coaching is a little bit more formal and structured and clear from the start, where the format and process in mentoring can be loose, and it's a much longer relationship. So you start, even if it's with a clear vision and clear mission on what you want to achieve, the relationship is long. It doesn't have to be so structured. The similarities, so that's, I think, for the differences. For the similarities, I think what's important is that both coaching and mentoring have in common that they are there to support people. It's a learning relationship with the purpose of supporting the other. The other similarity is that both could have the same benefit at the end. Maybe in coaching, it will be more related with increasing self-awareness, learning how to solve your own problems, becoming more assertive, gaining more self-confidence. I think you can gain those as well with mentoring, depending on your mentor and the skills of the mentor. But if a mentor uses the skill, the coaching skill, they can end up with those benefits, as well as gaining more knowledge, gaining maybe a new perspective. And I think the most important one is understanding how you can succeed in your current job, which is basically usually the objective for entering a mentoring program. I remember one of my first boss at Deloitte, when I started, said that he attributes his success and his achievements to his mentor. And traditionally in big corporate America, everybody had a mentor, and a mentor was basically your boss, or a 2-level higher boss. It was someone you would meet once a month, and you would just share with him, you know, how your work is going, how your career is going, and he was supposed to pass on some wisdom, some perspective about the company, introduce you to people, just look after you and guide you through. And that used to be a very informal process, but that was, you know, since the 70s, he used to be part of corporate America. And then he has evolved in a more structured, where companies now ask senior people to mentor younger people in the company, or in the case of association, to actually organize a more structured process. And I would say that, and Raja is going to love this because it's a Buddhist proverb, if you light a lamp for someone, it will also brighten your path. So mentoring will always benefit you and the mentor. And it's, again, a similar thing with the coach. You always learn a lot from your coachee, even though it's supposed to be helping and supporting the coachee. But after 7-8 years now of coaching, I have to say that I've learned maybe as much as coachee have learned from the experience. I think that's what I would say as main similarities and differences. Yeah.
Thank you. I have a question. According to you, what would be a good match for a mentee and mentor relationship? You're on mute, Kenza.
Sorry. Yes, thank you. So I think I get this question a lot as well. And I've got this question especially because people, and maybe before I answer that question, what I'd like to say is that a lot of people wonder if they should get into coaching or mentoring, and can they get both, or should they get both, or should they start with one and the other? And so before choosing a coach or a mentor, they want to know if they should do either. And what usually I say, and I advise people who come to me with this question, is start with coaching. And the reason is that when you go into mentoring, because it's a more directive relationship, it would be better for you to have a clear ideas of your values, your talents, your strengths, your skills, all of those things that normally happens in a coaching program. If you go into mentoring without being clear about who you are and what you want to achieve, and how is your career going, or at least how good you are at something, you might be a bit too influenced and feel that, because the mentor objective is, yes, to guide you and to give you insights, but I think it's very important that you're very clear on your own values, and you have a very, very stable structure of yourself, and a very clear self-awareness. So to answer your question, then once you decide, okay, let's go for coaching. I do my coaching program. It can last 6 months to a year usually, or even less sometimes. Let's find me a mentor, and what's a good match? And I would say, again, I think it's the same as when finding a coach. It's all about fit. It's all about personality fit. I think it's important that you trust your gut feeling in that. That you feel that the conversation is flowing, that you feel you're comfortable with the person, that you can trust the person. And of course, the practical side is that the mentor has to be someone from your field, from your industry, that you regard as a role model, that you regard as someone who have achieved something in the industry you are in, someone who you think you can learn from. I think it's really has to do with the gut, but also has to do with the fact that obviously this person has the knowledge, has the expertise, and has the experience.
And do you think the gender plays a role between the mentors?
It's an interesting question, and I've had that. And again, can you have a role model that is a man? And I think some people would say yes. Some women said yes. I would ask the same question for a man. Do you have a role model that is a woman? If the answer is yes, then your mentor could be a woman. I don't see, it really depends. Again, it's about a fit, about how comfortable you are and about how comfortable is the mentor. Both have to be comfortable. Both have to have a conversation that is flowing and that is, and is based on trust, definitely. So I don't think gender is important, unless for one of the person it is.
Yeah, I do understand. And do you think anyone could be a mentor in their life?
I think anyone who wants to be a mentor can be a mentor. Anyone who has knowledge, expertise, experience, personal anecdote, a network to pass on can be a mentor. And as I said before, I think mentors can benefit a lot from the experience and can benefit as much as the mentees. So not only they are sharing experience, but the fact that when you reach a certain level in your career and you're able to get to stay in touch with the younger generations or with people who have less experience, it doesn't have to do with age, but it has to do with experience, definitely, which is usually linked to age. It benefits you greatly, not only in your career, I think, but also in your life.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kenza. We have a question from the floor. When mentoring, should one have set goals, clear goals to what is wanted to be achieved by the relationship?
Yes, I think like in coaching, where it's a little bit more structured, where a very clear goal is agreed at the beginning. In mentoring, it would be very important to start at least with a vision and to agree that with the mentor. To sit down and agree some rules, the ground rules around how often should we meet, how do we going to communicate, and what do I want to achieve. And I think it has to be very clear and based on trust. So mentees shouldn't shy away from saying, actually I really need a mentor because I need to expand my network and I need to do this and that. And just be very clear about what you want to achieve. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to achieve what you want. And the mentor objective should just be, I want to support you, and tell me when this is not happening. If after 3-6 months, you don't feel I am helping you in the way you expected. I think expectations have to be very clear from both sides. Otherwise, nobody's going to get any benefit from it.
Thank you. You also say that it's good for a mentee to have been coached before, so that he knows or she knows himself or herself. What about the mentor? Does he need training as well? And does he need to be coached before being mentor?
I love this question, Nicolas. The reason is, I think definitely, absolutely, because that's what I would define a good mentor. Some people have, I think, the innate skills of mentoring, because they will be very good listeners, because there will be people who don't try to impose their views. They will be more on the listening side and questioning and make the mentee think for themselves and try to support him in a way where he can solve the problems on their own. However, not everybody has that just natural skill. And I would say that people should definitely get training to get the same training as a coach, which is very similar. You need to be very good at listening. And when I say listening, is active listening. So listening in a way where you're not trying to think of the answer already, you're actually listening to what people are saying, and be comfortable with taking the time to think after that to answer. I think the training has to do also with how to help someone reflect back and challenge the person without being challenging. It's a different. I think it's also important for a mentor to get training around how to give feedback in a proper way, in a constructive way, And also, I think the important skills that sometimes people always ask about is how to ask questions. There are ways to ask questions, open, closed questions. People will always ask closed questions. They don't let the others actually expand a little bit more in the thinking. And also there's training about not saying anything, being comfortable with just listening and not saying anything. That's also another skill. There's a lot of training out there, and I would definitely recommend the two things you mentioned. One is maybe getting coached if you think you need to clarify some of your own ideas, values, or how you're doing, or your main skills or your strengths, and get clarification around that. Or if you just need training around, how can I be a really good mentor?
So hopefully it will create benefit for both the mentor and the mentees that have been willing to enter the scheme we've offered. We've done the matching. We had to do that very risky exercise for those who are participating. Of course, they should feel free to change if there's no match. And I just wanted to raise this for all our mentors and mentees on the line. But definitely for mentors, it will also be a good way to improve self-awareness. I do have another question from our attendees. Is it possible to have lifelong mentor, or would you suggest that it is rather better to have different mentors or coaches for different goals?
Okay, very interesting question. Lifelong mentors. I've heard that people have had those, and I would say that's extremely lucky if you get across someone who is ready and happy to be your lifelong mentors. I know that my husband have had the same mentor for almost 20 years. He stopped being his mentor because he changed companies. He stayed 20 years in a company, and he had the same mentor he was able to call and chat with regularly. Maybe in time less and less, because maybe you also grow in your own experience, and the evolution you have in your career might slightly differ from the career of your mentor. But I mean, if you're lucky to have the same mentor through life, I think, and if you think you're gaining insight or the relationship is growing, then definitely there's no reason why you should stop that relationship if it still benefits you. However, I think that if you change your path in your career, or if you start evolving into something else, you definitely would benefit from another mentor, more in line with what you're doing and more in line with what you aspire to do. So having more than one mentor is okay. As long as you're very clear again with that person, what you expect from them, how the relationship is going, how often you want or what type of engagement you want from that person. If it has become very informal, it's just the person that is kind of, you got kind of very close to that person, and has become an informal type of engagement where you get to chat once every 2 months, then yes, there's nothing wrong with that. Actually, I think it's great. Some people, like I said before, are natural mentors. They do it without even realizing they're mentors. And I'm sure, we all have that kind of person at some point in our career. We all have that.
Thank you. Kenza, we received various questions in the Q&A. A lot of questions. Perhaps we can start with the questions. Someone asked, can you tell us how should we find a mentor?
Okay, so I think, like I said before, traditionally mentors were someone in your organization who has a lot of experience, who is positioned in a way where he is, I would say, in the leadership team, someone who's able to add to your knowledge, to your perspective, to your experience. So the first place where I'd look for is within my own company, and someone I feel comfortable with, sometimes someone I look up to, someone who I admire. I think that's the first thing I would try. Someone who I would feel comfortable talking to, and I would ask the questions. Would you mind? In most big companies, such a scheme is already in place. Normally, HR is in charge of matching people in companies and saying, well, you're going to have a mentor soon. We're gonna make it work, and then it's very structured. In smaller companies, not the case. So don't feel shy about going up in the leadership and say, I need a mentor. And it shows, I think, ambition. It shows interest in your career. The company normally knows that there's only benefit in someone having a mentor. They're going to grow, they're going to develop. And I think that's very important. I think definitely I would look first in the company. If there is no such person as someone you look up to and you admire or you think you would gain insight from, I would then go in association in like you're organizing, and say, well, can you put me in touch with someone that could be my mentor? So I would look around and network as much as possible to find such a person, and don't feel like Nicolas said, it's very difficult to match people, before they can get a sense of, how they're going to feel with that person. Don't feel shy either when you meet the person for the first time, or you just chat on the phone and you feel it's not going to work. And I give also this advice when you're trying to find a coach or a psychotherapist. I say, on the first meeting, if you feel something is quite not working, just say I don't think this is going to work. And I think it's better to say it from the beginning and be straightforward about it than just, drag this into a long relationship where nothing is working, nobody's happy, because what you are feeling, it's someone is out there. It's not something that you're the only one feeling. It's going to be something that the other person feels. But sometimes people are not as self-aware, and they just, need more time to figure out. So if you feel that, just don't go on with it. But definitely go out there in your company. And second, I would go in my network.
Thank you.
May I go for a provocative one?
Oh yes, please. We love those ones.
Because we're discussing about career planning. What if your mentor has the job you want?
Then even more the reason to be his mentee, I would say. Are you saying that because what would be the problem for you or for the mentor? What is the problem?
Because I've been working in a law firm forever, and to become a partner at some point, you need that someone has to go out because there are limited spaces. So you look to the person above, but at some point, that you will take his seat. And there can be a tension at some point. I had several mentors, they all left, and some became competitors. So they're no longer your mentor when they're competitors. But this can be difficult. And I also had the situation where I probably was acting as a mentor, and the mentee left because her career could probably not develop while I was still in the office.
Mm-hmm. Because of the limited the limited career prospect for the person, you mean?
Because of me occupying the seat and being for the moment young enough not to have succession plans.
Yes, and it's the case in many companies. In consulting, it's the case. I think in private equity a little bit as well, especially in smaller firms. It's always a pyramid, right? When you get at the top, there's only a few spaces, and the people here are developing, and they all know in consulting and in law, everybody knows that at some point they either leave and get into something else, or they're really into the race, and it's a race. So I think. That's the rule of business. Those mentors are definitely occupying, like you say, the space you want. But I think because they know that, again, transparency and trust, it still has to be the best of the relationship. I don't think they are, by being your mentor, I think what you're trying to imply is by being your mentor, are they going to be as benevolent as they could be because they know you want their seat? I think again that's a skill, and that's something that you have to look out when you're looking for a mentor. How benevolent is that person? How much do you think they really want to support you? And I think that matching, when you meet them for the first time, you're going to have to figure out and decide whether this person is going to be a right mentor for a long-term basis. If you feel this person is just going to be busy and worried about their own career prospects and their own career development, then maybe that's not the right person to be a mentor. I think benevolence is a very important skill that maybe I didn't mention before. Benevolence and understanding that this is a relationship where both can benefit, and it's not only about career prospect and ambition. It's really about the fact that you, for your personal development, it is very important for even for the mentor. Beyond the fact that you can take their space or not, there are other firms, and everybody knows in those firms, in consulting or in private equity or in law, that this is a pyramid. So at some point you're going to have to decide where you're in it for the race or you move out.
Thank you. We receive a lot of questions, Kenza. Some of them are related to the mentoring, and some of them are related to the coaching. First, we should go on with the mentoring. Someone asked, is it good or bad thing to pronounce your interest of having a certain person as a mentor? How do you approach this?
Sorry, can you repeat again the question?
Is it a good or a bad thing to pronounce your interest of having a certain person as a mentor? You see, I think the person wanted to say, is it positively or badly taken by the person to be a mentor, and how to say, not how to say it, but how the mentor will feel after being asked to be a mentor.
Oh, you mean when someone is being approached to become a mentor?
Yeah, apparently the question.
I think I would believe someone should feel definitely happy and flattered by being approached to be a mentor. I think it's because that person is recognizing in the mentor a certain expertise, skill. Probably there's admiration usually when you approach someone, and is being seen as a role model. Sometimes people are not even aware that they are that person, and they might be surprised, and depending on the personality of the person, people who have a lot of humility might say, oh no, but I think it's a good thing. Yes, definitely, if you feel there is someone who could be your mentor, be extremely open about it. I think it's flattering and it's extremely positive. There's nothing wrong about wanting someone as a mentor. I think no, as the opposite.
Thank you. We receive also interesting question. Someone asked, when would you consider is the right time to see an executive coach in your life? Do you have examples from your clients?
I have hundreds of examples. Yes, I can maybe talk about the main reasons. So the most common reasons I get. Number one is, I want to change career. That's the number one. I'm not very happy. I've been in investment banking for 15 years and it's not really working for me, or I'm wondering if it's a good idea to remain. And I want to start thinking about what I could do if I continue. So a lot of people is about the race. In consulting is the same. Should I continue in this race? Do I have what it takes to become a partner? So should I continue or start thinking about something else? I got a lot of that. I have also people who come just to figure out and clarify their talent, their strengths. They want to reconfirm their values. I want to know a little bit more about myself. I've been on a single track since university. I have a lot of clients who've been excellent students, straight A's, and they've been on a track since almost high school, and then they studied this because that's what best students studied, and then they went into having this career because that's what best university student got. And then after 20 years, they realize, well, I'm not sure I've been doing what I really like. Is there something else for me? I get that a lot as well. I get a lot of people as well with tensions and problems at work. So it's a lot about conflict resolutions and about communication. A lot of people want to communicate better with their team and with the people around them. And they come saying, well, you know, I've been very good so far in my career, but I've reached a level where I have to manage a lot of people and I'm not sure I'm doing this well. And I can feel that I have a lot of pressure right now to manage my team, and I haven't done it before. How can I do this better? So a lot of clients come for leadership development, basically skills of leaders. How can I be a better manager? How can I be a better leader? What else? I've had some interesting also approaches when I was in London around women who wanted to go back to their career after they had a career break. A lot of very talented, experienced women were working for 10, 15 years in law, for example. I've had a particular example, or in banking, and they've stopped for 5, 6 years and they wonder if they can actually go back. A lot of them have come back. A majority have come back to become entrepreneurs, but some other people have come back actually to real jobs in the industry. It's a little bit harder, but it's possible, especially in countries where they have returnship program, as they call them. So yeah, I would say that kind of gathers the most common issues or personal development people want to get from coaching.
And are there, you mentioned a few, but are there some challenges that are specific to women? I'm a bit hesitant with the tone of that question, but it's coming from the floor, not from the man that I am.
Yes.
But we want to know whether there are specificities that women should be aware of, and maybe a few tips if you believe that there are specificities.
I think most of the time women has come with the main issue of I want to return to the career I had, or I want to return to work after a career break. That has been the most common. Another one was actually how to reconcile my career with my personal life. That has been quite a lot of coaching programs around that, and they usually don't come with that issue. They usually don't realize it's about conciliation or prioritizing. They usually come with the problems that I'm in a kind of burnout. I'm doing everything wrong. So usually what I've heard women is that they are very hard on themselves. They feel like they have to do everything perfectly. And so they say, well, I'm doing this really wrong and I'm not doing this well. And then they told me in the office that I'm involved too much and I don't know how to delegate. And then I miss all of the parents meeting at school, and I don't, and after I arrive at home, I'm still on my computer working. And then my kids are really kind of outsourced to other people, and I'm not really happy about that. So, and then we realize when we start the coaching program that it is a little bit about conciliation, about clarifying your strengths and being kind to yourself and accepting who you are and accepting that you're not going to be able to do everything perfectly. That doesn't exist, and accept, you know, imperfection. That's also part of raising self-awareness and self-confidence and being more assertive by saying, no, I can't do that. It's okay if you can't do that. So all of those things, you know, happen in the process. It takes time, but it's part of the process.
Thank you. We also have many questions still about you, about coaching, and one question came to me, and this is raised by one of the panelists. He asked, what are the difference when you coach teams and individuals?
When I coach teams or individuals, the difference?
Yeah, it's quite important for us.
So what I like about coaching, and I think it's normally a one-to-one relationship where you get to increase someone's self-awareness, self-confidence, when you get to make them think harder, when you get to challenge them in a nice way, and to get them to a point where they didn't think they could get on their own, and also when you help them gain a new perspective and see things from a new angle. That's what I love about coaching one-to-one. Coaching teams is very different because there's no one-to-one relationship. It's more about the dynamic of the group, and there is such thing as a group self-awareness, understanding the other, understanding how to communicate between each other, understanding that actually some people might be different from you. So the way to better be, listened to, or how to be managed, has to do with your own personality, but the other. It has to do with also kind of, it also has to do with understanding how to manage conflict. Sometimes there's conflict where there's no reason where there should be conflict. It's all about listening more. So a little bit the same skills as is one-to-one, but it is a very different environment. But at the end of the day, I don't use different skills. I use different framework. I use different tools, different exercises, but with the same end goal: raising self-awareness, raising confidence, because people, when they're more confident, they're less likely to get into conflict, or to feel pressure, or to have tension between each other. Most of the time in teams, when there's something wrong, is because someone feels that they're not understood, or because they feel that they're not being recognized. And self-confidence doesn't care about recognition. Self-confidence, you know who you are, you know what you have, you know your skills, you don't need that self-recognition. So that's, on the top of my head, that's what comes to my mind.
Yeah, I think.
Thank you very much for the question. I have one which is from other perspective, and someone asked what kind of training did Kenza go through to become a coach after working at Deloitte? I know that it's in your beautiful website and everyone can see, but maybe from the perspective where to find the motivation, or how to recognize that you are the personality to be able to be a coach.
Okay, so very briefly, I'm going to try to summarize my life to you. But after consulting, I went into banking. And then after that, I had a complete change of career already. And I was quite young because I've been working, I think, for 7 years. And I was approached by a headhunter to go and work for a French bank, Société Générale. I'll always remember that. And then I started talking, and we had 2 interviews. And after the second interview, the headhunter said, well, actually, you know what, after talking with you, it looks like you would fit amazingly in our firm as a headhunter. And to be honest, I was maybe 30 at that time, so I never really got that close to headhunters yet. So, I started looking into it, and I really loved the idea of it. So I jumped into it. I remember Raja told me, you're crazy, you're leaving an amazing career in consulting, because in the bank I was a consultant as well. Why are you doing that? And I said, I just feel it's the right thing to do for me, because in consulting I was doing okay, but I've always felt that I was never going to be amazing. And I always felt in that pyramid I would not get to the partner level. However, executive search and headhunting kind of had an appeal to me, and I felt like a lot of my strengths and talent would play a major role. So I got into it, and indeed I loved it, and I enjoyed most part of the job, especially the interviewing and the career counseling kind of. The interaction with people. I felt it came easy to me and natural. And then I had my first child. And then consulting both started to be a little bit hard, especially in London, because at a certain level in executive search and as a headhunter, you need to be out there a lot. You need to be commercial. You need to sell a lot, which I was not very comfortable with. It's a bit of a mercenary market, especially in London. And then I decided after my first child, I'll take a break. When he was 2 years old, I was not really seeing him a lot. When the nanny would leave, he would cry to stay with me, and that really kind of made me feel miserable. So I decided to think and got a coach and started thinking, what can I do? And the more I was talking with the coach, and the more I loved actually what he was doing to me, and I started training. And to be honest, even at the beginning, I thought I wanted to become a psychotherapist. So I trained for 2 years in psychotherapy. I got a diploma, and I said, I don't think I want to continue because I needed to do 3 more years to become a psychotherapist. It wasn't for me. I still miss the corporate world. I miss the business side of it. So I said, what can I do with psychotherapy? And then I went into coaching. I trained for a year. And then I attended a lot of seminars. I trained as well in NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, which has helped me, I think, be a better coach, because it has given me even more tools and a better framework even to understand how coaching works. It's a bit magical. So NLP kind of explains at the neuroscience level why it works. And then I trained again after many years, kind of doing the MBA of coaching. I went into Cambridge and I trained again because it was an advanced program. And after many years of coaching, I wanted to make sure I was doing the right thing. And I'm actually finishing, I was supposed to finish now in May, but because of the circumstances, we might finish in September. So this is how I came about all of this. It was a long journey. It's been more than, I think now, 12 years.
It's a very long and interesting story. Like it's amazing how, because it's not so long time, but you can do so many different, so many things, so qualified. And but I have one nice question, which is a little bit connect with myself as well. What would you do as a mentor if a mentee seems to be stuck at a certain stage, but should definitely move forward without hurting his confidence?
But should definitely, sorry?
Should definitely move forward, without hurting his confidence.
Move forward, like in what sense? Maybe in the sense of moving from the mentoring, or moving forward in their career? Do you know what
moving forward
it means?
in the career? If I could understand the question is what to do, you as a mentor or as a coach, when someone is stuck, to move him, to motivate him, and to hurting his confidence.
You know, as a coach, you would go about very in a way of questioning and listening. So I would go deeper into questioning why the stuckness. Sometimes I use exercises with metaphors. Sometimes people are very use imagery without realizing. They say, I'm stuck, I can see a brick wall. I've had that, for example. I have a brick wall, and then I make them imagine, you know, where is the brick wall? Can you see it? What is the color? Using metaphors in coaching is very helpful. And I make them actually, with the metaphor, play. Can you go around the brick wall? Can you break it? What is it? What do you need to break it? So there's a range of possibilities in coaching, and I would not actually make any suggestions about how to do it, even if I have my own hypothesis. And that's the difference between coaching and mentoring. Everybody, when you're going to listen a problem, you're going to have your own hypothesis of how to solve it. Might be the right one, might be the wrong one. And from my experience, I've learned that actually giving your advice directly and very quickly from the beginning, it doesn't help, because people need to figure out from themselves. They need to know the way out. They need to find how to get out of that situation. So the way to help as a mentor, as well as a coach, is to ask questions, to get the person to develop further about that stuckness. What does it look like? And with open questions, not closed questions. You feel stuck in that. And it's not very important to know why. We're not into therapy here. We want to know how. We want to know what it sounds like, what it feels like. We want to know, what can you do about it? Even start, when you start challenging, is what do you think you can do about it? Keep on asking questions, keep on trying to get deeper into that feeling and into, the stuckness. It's all about asking questions and listening. And also you can notice about the body language. Sometimes people start, doing this or actually scratching their head. There are a range of clues that you can use to ask, I noticed that you, when you mention this, you scratch your head. Does this, what does it mean? What do you think it means? It's just by asking questions. It doesn't, you don't need to say, oh, I saw you crossed your arms, so it means you're not very comfortable. No, it's all about continuing to ask the questions. I've noticed that you posed when you mentioned this, what does it mean? What do you think it means? Or sometimes you can offer back what the person is making you feel. In our last conversation, I noticed that there was a bit of a tension. I felt stuck. What do you think it means? Because normally when there is something between two person, when the other person, when you're feeling something, it's probably you are transferring it to the other person. One of the most important thing in relationship, in coaching or mentoring, in any relationship, is a transference, is what the other person is making you feel. And that is very relevant in the conversation, and offer it back as a reflection. Like, okay, you made me feel like this. I wonder if that's how you make the other feels in your office. Does your team feel like that? Because I felt that in our conversation. Is this something that happens often? Is there like a pattern of behavior? That's very useful for the mentor to say, I felt you've done this and this and this in our relationship. Is this a pattern in your career? Is this something you usually do? And just offer that as an, exploring. Like always, I would say explore, ask, and reflect back.
Because you already answered one of the next questions, and before I will leave Nicolas to ask.
Yes.
Just because there is a question that is rather for the LPA, which is, when do you work in very small firms? How do you find a mentor outside of the organization? Just want to say you can send an email to Michaela, because that's exactly the purpose of the mentoring scheme that we've created. We'll try to find a mentor for you. I say we'll try. We're not saying that we'll get there, but at least if you tell us what you're expecting, the type of person you're looking for, the type of experience the mentor should have, Michaela will try to do the matching. So that was for the LPA, and then one again for you, Kenza. What was because people are willing to hear about your war stories. So what was your most difficult case today in coaching?
My most difficult case. My most difficult case. I'm trying to think about my supervision because that's where I take my difficult cases. The same as for, I don't think that's the case for mentors, but maybe the mentors have their own mentors to take on their difficult cases, which I would recommend instead of supervisor, which we need to do in coaching. I take my difficult cases. And I think the most recent, because I'm sure I've had more before or at the beginning, the most recent is when you have been coaching someone for a long time, and you are working in a kind of in a relationship between the company, which is your client, which is who the entity who have hired you and who's paying you, and the client who's working in that company. And I think the most difficult has been to not collude, which the term that my supervisor used, with my client, my direct client, and not the company. And as a coach, you find yourself in this difficult relationship where you still have to report to the company who's paying you, who's giving you the job, and who's telling you the objective is that for this person to become a better communicator, which was the case at the beginning, because we are in a big global company, and he's the regional leader of a certain area, and we want him to become more corporate, to adhere more to our values and our culture. And the more I was coaching this person, and the more I became fond of this person, because I really appreciate his personality, the way he acts. I think he's an excellent professional, and we've been working on his communication skills and how to become more corporate and how to understand better the values of the company. But I think at some point it was difficult to to challenge him, because we became so, not friend, but we kind of agreed on almost everything intellectually. So I think those are the difficulties. The difficulty for a coach is to continue to be able to challenge your client, even though you've known the client for a long time and you appreciate this client. So you have to be always careful with the relationship. It's always, at the end, it always comes to the relationship.
Yeah, it seems like you already answered the next question. I feel that a coach is someone sort of an executive psychotherapist. What do you think?
In the coaching world, we usually never want to be called psychotherapist, and take offense in be calling life coach. For example, I never want to be called a life coach, because I don't think such things should exist. I think a life coach is someone who's just trying to be a psychotherapist that didn't get the appropriate training. Coaching in business and executive coach or career coaching is, I think, someone who's trying to help and support you, the person, in their career. And we don't get involved into personal aspects, even though they can come across because it affects your career. But the big difference is, I think, something I said before, is I don't get into the why. When someone say, well, I have this problem, I am like that, and I am, for example, I lack self-confidence. I'm not getting into the problem of why do you lack self-confidence? What happened in your childhood? What did your mom did to you? I'm not getting into that. I don't want to get into that. And I don't think you get solutions, and you don't solve that problem by getting into the why. That's the area of the psychotherapist. I think the similarity with the relationship with a psychotherapist is, yes, you do get into a kind of transference relationship. And it's all about relationship, but I won't get into the personal aspect, and I won't get into the why. Why do you feel that? Why do you think that? I will get into the how, and how do we get out of there? You're on mute.
Thank you very much. Yes, we have already 1 hour of this amazing workshop, but we have still questions, and people are waiting for answers. So I would like to continue. But firstly, I would like to ask also our attendees. You can send us the comments, but we will continue now with the next questions. And if you are still, they are still in. So.
Sorry, so one second. I am not able, for some reason, my computer is not being charged. So I'm just going to connect from another one. I'm just going to leave for 1 second and connect here. 1 second.
No problem. So I would like only to say a few information regarding one of your questions. Someone asked if you can find a mentor. It's a really easy way. You can send us email at mikaela.viskupicova@lpa.lu, and I, as a coordinator of Private Equity for Women group, can add you to our Private Equity for Women mentoring. What is necessary is that you have to be a member of Private Equity for Women group. It means your company used to be a member of LPEA. So I hope we will have more mentors and mentees. We already have 30 participants in this mentoring session. And Kenza is back, so I would like to ask you the next question. What do you answer to those who say coaching costs a lot to companies, and that is the real effective and mostly beneficial to the coach, money-wise?
Sorry, can you repeat again the question?
Yes. What do you answer to those who say coaching costs a lot to companies, and that is really effective and mostly beneficial to the coach?
To the coach, mostly benefited.
Yes, the benefit is only on the side of the coach because it's too expensive and the company needs to pay, and it for the employees doesn't make sense. So what do you think about this?
I have a very good joke about this, because I think I've seen a joke in the newspaper once, and it was human resource director asking the question, what if we train all of these people and we develop them and they leave? And the CEO responds, what if they don't? and they stay. And I think, you know, it kind of summarizes a little bit the problem is expensive is a relative term. I think lately in the US, definitely, I think the debate is not there anymore because everybody has a coach, whether from their company or paying for themselves, everybody has a coach. And I think it's because their work is so important that it's only work, work, work. But still, they've understood that is an important part of their career development if they want to progress. It's also a time to reflect back and to pause on what you've been doing. The cost is relative because if people are not being developed, like the joke says, they might stay and don't develop and don't improve and don't progress. And that's, I think, a big cost on your company. The other aspect is that if they leave, that's another cost because people, their managers are not being developed and people leave because they don't feel they're managed properly. And then you have a high turnover. There's a lot of things and there's a lot of studies out there. Pricewaterhouse has done an amazing one. I think E&Y has done also a lot of studies about return of investment on coaching, and people and companies who have invested in coaching, I think 85% have answered that they've seen the return on investment on their turnovers, on absences, on productivity of employees. There's a lot of studies out there that, you know, are available to the public to read and see if someone wants to make a case in their company about coaching is important at all levels, because from what I know is that a lot of companies, I have coached a lot of people in Goldman Sachs, but they were paying for themselves because they were VPs or managers. And they said that they feel it's quite unfair because all managing directors get automatically a coach paid by the company, but all the levels below don't. And it was the case that one of the VP I was coaching started to make the case to the company and saying everybody should be coached because in this high pressure environment, we definitely need the support. We need the time to think. And then in that case, it was a woman. And she made the case because it's true that particularly in investment banking and M&A, almost all women leave. And the managing director started saying, well, actually, it's going to be part of our leadership for women. And they have a whole initiative now launched. And then they have a bunch of coaches doing the program for junior employees. So there's a lot of there that can be said. And there's a lot of there that can be read if someone wants to make the case of, you know, is coaching expensive or actually it's cost effective and there is a return on investment.
Thank you. I have a personal question. What would be your tips to give to women to succeed in their career?
Oh, wow. That's the $1 million question.
Yeah.
I think, how can women succeed? I think there's no one model and there's no one way. And I think if to have the choice is the key to success, to have the choice. And once you make the choice, not based on influence or society, what do you think society thinks it's the right thing? When your choice is based on what you really want and what's going to work for you, make it stick and assume that's the right thing. Because from clients I've had and the frustrations I've seen is more about choosing something, for example, choose a career over staying at home and being frustrated about it. And I don't think there is really one way to do it. I don't think all women should have an amazing career and don't try to have a family. And I don't think having a family or staying at home and trying to care for your family and leaving a career a little bit on the side is also the solution. I think you have to find what's good for you and what fits for you at the right time for you. And depending on your career and what you want to do and how you feel about it, I think all of that comes when you're confronted with the issue. I think in my case, I thought I was easily going to be able to conciliate both. And what I ignored is the feeling I had when I was coming back home and haven't seen the kid for the whole day. And I think, I'm not saying it's the wrong thing to do. I'm saying be comfortable with whatever decision. And I thought I would be comfortable because I really wanted to have that career of super executive search, and even, create my own firm. And I had lots of ambition around that. But I got into different priorities, and that's my own personal story. And I know other women take different decision, and that's great. I think what is good is really make sure that you have the choice, and you have the choice normally in society today, and just make the right choice according to you and your own feelings and how comfortable you're going to be with that choice. I don't think there is one formula for success, and I don't think like what's her name, the Facebook CEO, this book really was a disaster for all women, because she really makes it look like she can do everything and be great at everything and be perfect. And I've had a lot of clients who come to me and said, I've read the book of Sandler, I think it's a book, Sandler or something like that, the COO of Facebook. And I'm really struggling because I don't see, I'm doing it all wrong. And I said, that's not reality. I don't think that's possible, apart from the fact that she has an army of staff and an army of carers at her home. I don't think that's the reality. I don't think you can do it all at one time. You can do it all, but not at one time.
Thank you. Because we received a comment and someone said, what would you say? Because she said, but what about what about single working moms? I think this person would like to have perhaps tips or something to give her confidence to succeed in a career and as a mom.
Again, it's about accepting not to be perfect, because as a single mom, it's really, really hard. I can only imagine. If there is actually, it's not even a choice. You probably have to work, and you have to reconcile that with having a family and caring for the family. Try to make it work. Don't try to make it perfect. Just try to make it work. And that's something that I also learned in psychotherapy. Don't believe that it's whatever priority you have in your head, make sure the priority is you, number one. Second, is it, in case you don't have a partner, it's your career then, or your partner. Third is your children. And I used to think differently. I used to think, number one, my children, number two, my partner and my career, number three, me. And I was all wrong. And I realized that because if you don't take care of yourself, you cannot take care of the rest. The same, metaphor as in the same examples for airplanes, when they ask you to put the oxygen mask on yourself before you put it on your children. And it's exactly, it's very relevant in life. If you don't take care of yourself, if you don't make sure you're fine and you're doing well, and prioritize yourself and your self-care, and take time to have space and to do what you like. So for a single mom, I know it's very hard, but I think things work better if you do that than if you prioritize your work and your children, and then all the rest, and then you, because it's at some point it's all gonna fall down.
And if I may comment on this one, if you'll look, just you say that you were not interested in the why. And I think I quite like the idea. And I think the answer to the why should never be because I'm a woman or because I'm a man. I think it doesn't make sense. If you ask me why am I working part-time, the answer, because I'm a woman, was not working for me, and would never work for anyone else. You do it because, as you say, you make choices, not because of what you are or are not.
Exactly. You have to make it work for yourself. Exactly.
Thank you. I think we are running out of time. I don't know, perhaps Michaela, can you confirm?
Yes, we have still new questions, but we are already by the end, but it's not end of whole story. I would like firstly to thank Kenza for this amazing webinar, and I hope we will meet here in Luxembourg. So when will be possible to travel, because it will be pleasure for us to welcome you here in Luxembourg. It was amazing time with you. I know that you are now in Spain, so I use one small trick to be closer to you. Music, please. So, and also we say that please prepare your drink, because this time is really hard, but we can't forget to smile. So, and this is the last day before the weekend, so cheers.
Cheers, everyone. It was a pleasure for me. The pleasure was for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hope we will see soon, because we plan other events for you. For example, the mentoring session with Miles Downey. So stay tuned and see you soon. Cheers. Goodbye. I thank you very much, Kenza, for this amazing mentoring, and all of you for coming.
Thank you.
Kenza. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.